Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of What's on Your Mind. I'm your host, Nimari Beilu. We weren't here last week because it was the Super Bowl. Hopefully, you all had a great time, a wonderful Super Bowl weekend. I'm out here in Delaware, right near Philly, so I had to root for the Eagles. That's about as much as I knew about the football and the Super Bowl and what was going on. Was it a good weekend for you, Renata?
Yeah, it was a pretty good weekend. I actually had an event yesterday, so that went well.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm so excited. I have a great guest with me today, Renata Lights. She is the founder of TAG and also a co-chair for First State Move. She's going to tell you a little bit more. I'm going to let you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll jump into some questions and get some details.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Renata Lights. I am the founder of Tag Julia Gem Inc. I'm also the college co-chair for First State Youth Move. I'm 23 years old. I have a 2-year-old daughter. And I'm really excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining. You mentioned, we'll start with, actually, you talked about your event that you just had was part of TAG. Truly, what was TAG for again?
Truly a gem.
Truly a gem. What made you think of and start TAG?
So I actually started Tag in 2019. It was because I was in high school at the time. I seen the way that girls were treating each other and the way that I was being treated by girls around me. And I didn't like it. I wanted to be able to make a positive change. So I started Tag for younger girls so that to prepare them for high school. Well, Tag, the ages are 11 to 15. So the goal is to prepare them for when they get to high school, the different challenges they may face, equip them with self-love, self-confidence, self-care, everything they'll need to know. I kind of came up with the name. It just came to me one day.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think this will work. It was not successful at first. It took a lot of years for it to become where it is now. Um,
Yeah, I think people underestimate how much work it takes to build up a nonprofit. I have
yeah,
to say, I love the age range because, oh my God, middle school. Middle school gives me
yeah,
thinking about middle school gives me shivers. It gives me flashbacks. You couldn't pay me to go back
mhm,
to middle school. The worst 3 years ever.
yeah,
I was bullied. It was terrible. Like, thank goodness high school was better for me. Now, where
mhm.
I went to school, our middle school, we had these things called houses. So there
Okay.
was red house, blue house, green house. And
Mhm.
you were in a house and you were with those same block of people for all 3 years. So whatever house you were in that house for the 3 years. And it was
Okay.
kind of cool because like you knew your people, the teachers and all of that. But it was
Yeah.
also awful because you were stuck with those people in only those classes for 3 years.
Oh
And I
wow.
hated all of them. High school was better for me because it opened us back up. So like the other 2/3 of the school, I hadn't really interacted with in my grade
Mhm.
before. Now I could interact with them and that helped a lot. But like
Yeah.
I feel so much for middle schoolers because I mean it's also such like a hard age, right?
Yeah,
You
it
do a
is.
lot with mental health, and that's a lot of times where some mental health things start developing. That's when mine started. My depression and things started really like showing their face. But it's
Mhm.
hard because people are like, "Oh, you're just a hormonal middle schooler. Oh,
Exactly.
you're just that." And in one case, you are. You're still thinking with the limbic part of your brain. You're still all emotions. You're pumping
Yeah.
emotions before logic. You can't help it. But
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so hard. So I love that you picked that age group because girls really need it. Like girls are brutal that age. I don't know if people realize how brutal girls are in that age range.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that mental health is definitely overlooked for that age range because like you said, you're going through puberty, you're becoming a teenager, so you're like all over the place. And I feel like even the girls themselves don't really think about how important their mental health actually is and
Hmm.
how it can impact them in the future. So I want to be able to teach them how important it is then so that when they get to high school, they're like, okay, I'm a little bit more prepared because high school is a whole different ball game from middle school.
It really is. It really is. And it's so interesting because I find that like a lot of people who hated middle school love high school, and who love
Yeah.
middle school kind of don't love high school as much, or it takes a minute. At least like that was the case with like me and my sister. She loved middle school. She was little miss whatever. High school took her a minute. But me, I hated middle school and I shined in high school. Like that was my playground.
Yeah.
Did you have any like personal experience? And you don't have to go too deep. You can go as deep or as not deep as you want to.
Yeah.
That led you to start it, particularly for that age range?
I would definitely say bullying. I feel like middle school, around that age, that was definitely the time that I felt it the most. Also with like mental health issues, I feel like my depression definitely started around like 11 or 12. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I know that if I'm going through this, there has to be other girls who are going through this too. And I want to be able to help them understand that they're not alone. And sometimes at that age, they just need someone to listen. And they may not always feel comfortable going to maybe their parents. So I just wanted to be able to have Tag be that safe space where they can open up and share how they feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that, like we said, like bullying is major at that age, and like for no good, like when I tell you, just talking about it gives me like I'm
Yeah.
in my 30s, I should be over it. But if you talk to me about middle school, I'm still like, ugh, it was the worst.
Yeah.
But just because like there's bullying, like there's like, I remember girls would send like notes and like everyone would sign it, and they're like, we don't want you to be friends with us anymore. I was on
Yeah.
the receiving end one time and the sending end one time. Because that's the other thing is like, even if you personally aren't a bully, to
Mhm.
fit in with others, you don't want to be the only one
Yeah,
standing up and saying something. And
for
it's weird
sure.
because some of like my biggest bullies in middle school were like my best friends later, because we both realized like we don't actually hate each other. We just like the other people had problems and we don't. So like, how
Yeah.
about we just be nice to each other? So
Yeah.
that was a nice change. You talk about mental health, which is a big topic here on the show as well.
Mhm.
And a trigger warning for those watching, when talk about suicide a little bit.
Mhm.
When I was 13, and I've talked about it on the show before, but that was when I tried to take my life.
Mhm.
I swallowed a bottle of pills, and it's because of that bullying. And the thing is, like, when you're an adult, it's bad enough, but there's still like a more of a level of like, this isn't the end, this isn't your whole
Right.
world. But when you're that age and it just feels like everyone is being awful to you and like there's
Yeah.
no end, and people aren't talking about mental health stuff because you're at that age and people think you're just teenagers. So they're not
Mhm.
clocking that it's a depression issue. They're just clocking you're just a hormonal teenager and you're trying to act like you're okay. And then you're going home and like crying yourself to sleep every night. And
Right.
it was really rough for me. And I remember like just getting to the point where I was like, I just want this to stop. Like, I just want the pain to stop, you know?
Absolutely.
Um, Thankfully I survived. Yay.
Yes.
Um, but I have just so much compassion in my heart for that age, and I hate when people are dismissive of young
Yeah.
kids and their emotions, because like that's their world.
Yeah.
To us, it's like, oh, it's just girls talking about you. But when you're that age, girls talking
It's
about you is your whole
serious.
world. It's like the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and I don't think people recognize that those things stay in your mind. So even if it's people, it may seem small to like an adult, but if someone is saying stuff about you every day, you start to believe those things about yourself. And
Hmm.
then that's when it gets to a point where it's like, okay, now I don't like myself, so how do I go forward? I definitely agree. Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing. I feel like when I was around 12, I would definitely have those thoughts like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. I mean, I'm going to school every single day and being treated like I don't belong. And I was the quiet person. And I feel like when you're the quiet person, you kind of get picked on the most because you're an easy target. They know
Yep.
that you're not going to defend yourself. So it's like eventually you get to the point where you're like, what am I supposed to do? For me, I definitely tried to like not go to school. I would miss the bus on purpose. Like, okay, I'm
Mm,
just not gonna go today. But with that comes problems because you have to go to school.
right.
So,
That part. Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it's important for people to remember that the things stick in your mind. Even as an adult, you may think back like, wow, I remember someone said this to me in middle school. Is this really the case? Like, it's hard to get over those things sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. I still have things that trigger me, and I'm over most of it. But like, don't you dare
Yeah.
call me fickle, because it like triggers me from being picked on about it. Only because it
Yeah.
was so not true. Like, anyways, don't let me get on that soapbox. But like, I think it's interesting, and it would be hard. I know this is hard to really imagine right now, but I used to be a quiet kid too. Like I was very like quiet and to myself. But I also think that like there's a reason why those quiet kids become adults like us, right? Like we didn't have anyone to be our voice when we were that
Right.
age. And so now that we're like, that's my main thing, is being a voice for those who need it, and also just
Yeah.
helping to amplify people, because people have their own voices. They just need someone to tell them that it's okay to use their voice. And I think that
Yes.
a lot of us who were quiet are loud now for that reason.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I definitely agree. And I feel like speaking about mental health is so important because it's something that I've noticed when you talk about it, other people will share their stories too and be like, wow, I went through the same thing. And they realize like we all have similar stories. So sharing about your mental health really, you like using your voice really helps other people and encourages other people to use their voice. And it definitely took me a while to use my voice. Like I'm an adult now and it's still kind of hard for me to be social sometimes,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
like using your voice definitely can help other people.
It definitely can. And it helps you too. There's a
Mm-hmm.
healing that comes from it as well. But like you said, that's how you also like realize, oh, other people feel the same. And even
Yeah.
me, like as much as I'm like talking and on the show, like I started by writing. Like I would write articles and things like that. And then people would contact me and be like, me too. Or I feel the same way
Yeah.
too. Thanks for describing depression that way. I didn't like think of it that way. And like from there,
Mhm.
I had to build up to using my voice. Like
Yeah.
it just is not always hard for me. It's one of those things where like I've always known I'm good at communications. I just prefer
Mhm.
not to. Even
Yeah.
now, like I'm working, all my career goals are to get behind the camera. I'm only in front of the camera because I have to be, because it's easier to create things for yourself and then
For
let
sure.
people let you create for them.
For sure.
But I want to get back behind the camera. I don't really like it.
I definitely feel you. I definitely do. It makes so much sense. Even with like with my nonprofit, I'm like, I have to be social and interactive, but I'm like, I kind of just like I like planning. I like being the person that's kind of like not out there, but over time, I'm like, in order to reach the girls in the way that I really want to reach them, I have to be able to be vocal and show them that I am, even though I am an adult, I am able to connect with them and I'm able to understand what they went through and help them in the best way that I can. So I'm like, to do that, I have to be able to know how to communicate and know how to
Correct.
talk. So
Yeah. So you just have to get that. Well, I love that you have used your experience to create tag and to help girls. And like I said, that age range, boy, do they need it. They really need it. They just need someone to listen. And it's hard to talk to your parents sometimes.
yeah,
Part of it is because you don't want them to know your business.
yeah,
And the other part of it is because a lot of times adults do the, oh, your problems are real problems. Or they tell you
mhm,
like, oh, you'll get over it, or you'll see it differently when you get older, which is true. But that doesn't
right,
solve the in the moment problem where I have to go to school with these girls who are picking on me, or I
yeah,
constantly have people who are, like you said, telling me my worth is low, my value is low. When you have a bunch of people telling you nobody likes you, nobody wants to talk to you, you're ugly. You know how long it took me to realize I was pretty because of all the damage that was done to me in middle school and high school? Like
yeah.
it took probably not till my early 20s. I was like, hey, you're kind of cute. Before that, like and I was like, you're just fat and ugly.
I
So like that,
definitely,
those voices can really
yeah,
impact you and impact the way that you feel about yourself. And so
mhm,
it's so important that we have adults and other people who are on the other side saying like, don't listen to those girls. And half the
yeah,
times those girls are projecting their own inner self issues.
yeah,
They need a hug too, a hard hug to get them to stop being mean,
yeah.
but they need a hug too, because a lot of times they're just projecting their inner hurt to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. I definitely do. And that's why I think it's important to even mental health is even important for the people who are the bullies because like you said, most of the time it's just a projection and they have mental health issues that they are struggling with as well. I mean, they may be being mean to you in school, but when they go home, you don't really know what they're going through in their own mind. So I think it's important for someone to be there for them as well and tell them like it's not okay to be mean to other people, but what is going on with you? Why are you treating people like this?
Exactly, exactly. And another area that you work in with mental health is being the co-chair of First State Move. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you started getting involved with that?
Yeah, so I first found out about First Aid Youth Move on Instagram. I seen a post they were looking for board members. So I started looking through their page and I seen that everything that they stand for aligned perfectly with what I believe in. So I submitted the application. I ended up getting accepted as the college co-chair. With that, my role is to um, implement positive programming and resources in colleges. Also, something that we want to do is encourage college members to implement positive programming and mental health things into the younger generation as well. So yeah, First Aid Youth Move focuses a lot on mental health advocacy, middle school, high school, and college in Delaware, and just to try to see what different schools need, see what the youth in the community needs to be able to have better coping mechanisms for their mental health.
I love that. How do you connect with the youth in the community through them?
So we do it through different events. We've had a trunk or treat event. We've had our mental health summit that we are so grateful you were able to be a part of.
I loved it. Yeah.
Thank you. We had our Breaking the Silence event. So we do it through different events throughout the year. Eventually, we plan on being able to go into the schools to be able to speak to the youth that way as well.
Nice, nice. There's been a few comments. Charles, if you could pull them up, we can go through a couple of them. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please like and follow. Good evening. Hi. Most definitely an easy target when you're quiet. Yeah, it really is, because they know you're not going to stand up to them. And you know what the worst part is that like I would think of the reply after, right? So like I remember this one time this girl was like picking on me in the locker room, and like I rolled my eyes, and she came up and she's like, "Don't roll your eyes at me. Who do you think you are?" And like I was just quiet about it. I was like, and then in my head later I was like, I should have told her, like, who do you think you are? But it was too late then. In the moment I was just like quiet. Like, sorry.
Yeah, and I feel like part of it is, for me, I think you kind of get frozen and you're like, I don't know how to respond. And also another part of it would be like, if I respond, will it get worse? So let me just stay quiet and maybe they'll back off eventually.
Yeah, that's a huge try for me. And then also, not to trauma dump on you all with all of my trauma tonight, but like I also grew up around domestic violence. So like that played a role in how I dealt with conflict and thing outside of the home. It really took me a long time to not be a people pleaser, because there was always a part of me that, like, as much as I respected and appreciated that my mom always stood up for herself, even though it would lead to the violence, there was a part of me that was like, if you just don't argue with him, he won't get mad and he won't hit you. So then because of that, I internalized that as like, if I just don't make people mad at me, they won't get upset at me and everything will be okay. So for the longest time, I just was so non-confrontational. I'd like whatever I could do to make people happy. I was such a people pleaser. No is currently my favorite word, and I love that for me. But it, it has been a journey to get to the point where I could stand up for myself. So certainly when I was in the middle school years, in the thick of things, like they had just divorced and we're still going through the divorce proceedings. So I was still very much in that mindset of like, I can't make people angry. And in those moments where like, even in that locker room moment, which I clearly distinctly remember, like I remember like my heart pounding out of my chest just by having her come up close to me and be angry with me. Like my whole body went haywire, like, oh my God. So it was like, there was no way I was going to defend myself or say anything. I just wanted like the moment to be done and for like everything to be okay. And I think a lot of times, especially in that age range, you're just like, I don't want to make it worse. Like you said, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to make things worse. So I'm not going to stand up for myself. And that's the hard part. It's like, where's the line between defending yourself
Yeah.
and then also not letting people walk over you, but also not making a situation worse? There's just so
Right.
much. And I feel like so many adults don't know how to navigate that it's crazy. We expect kids to be able to without
Yeah,
the help of
exactly.
adults, you know?
Mhm. Exactly. For
That's why your
sure.
organization is so important and so needed. Charles, I'm sorry I missed your last comment before that. I know I saw one that said great conversation. There's one here that says, I had heavy acne in middle school, which led to low self-esteem, and high school is where I gained my confidence. Yep. And that's the other thing. Puberty is a biatch. Like,
For
when your
sure.
body changes between the different age groups, and then like, I went to a predominantly white school.
Okay.
And something that we tend to know about Black girls in general too is we also develop earlier than
Yeah.
our other counterparts. It's also why Black girls unfortunately are sexualized at a younger age than the others. But it was like,
Okay.
I was almost full, like I was like filling out in all the areas in like
Yeah.
middle school while everyone else is still like a popsicle stick. So like I felt that, and even though if I look at pictures back then I wasn't yet, I was just filling out early. And if I had been around my peers, I would have looked more like my peers, but I was
Yeah.
literally the only Black kid in all of
Oh, wow.
Greenhouse. So no one else looked like me. So that was
Yeah.
just another area of like insecurity for me and just feeling awful and just feeling out of place. It's just, I did not like middle school year. This really traumatizing me tonight. But it's good, right? It's healing to talk about these things.
It is. It definitely is, and it's most definitely needed because then it makes you look back and kind of you can, even though it's so long ago, there's still things you can learn from that can help you today. So
Mhm.
it's definitely important to talk about for sure.
It is. And I think also, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. So I don't have kids. Hallelujah. Um, but I've never wanted kids. But I feel like people like me are so important in society as well, because I do think once you have a child, you switch into a parent mind, right? So like, even when you think of situations, you think of situations from the mind of a parent, like
Yeah.
how a parent would. I, because I've never had kids, still think from the mind of a child, like not as a child, but my perception of a situation is how I
Yes.
felt when I was a kid during that situation, not how I would feel as a parent with a kid in that situation.
For sure.
And so what that allows me to do is still be a voice for those kids who don't have that voice. And I think that, like, I'm just on my soapbox about people should be more appreciative of us unchildrened, childless
I agree.
people, because I do
Yes.
feel like you kind of need us, because it makes sense, right? Like, once you're a parent, of course your mindset's going to be different, and of course you're
Yeah.
going to see situations differently. But I literally still see situations as the child in like every situation,
Yeah.
because I've never had to switch to being the adult in the situation. But it also means when I talk to parents about situations, I can still be like, well, I remember exactly this is how I felt. And even though
Yeah.
now you're a parent and you understand why your parents did certain things and why your parents said things, as an adult, yes, I can still understand, but I still relate more to the emotions of that child. And so I can tell you now as an adult why your child is like this and how they feel like this. And we can have those conversations. I just think that that's really an important dynamic, and those conversations are really important.
I definitely agree. I think that brings a very different perspective that is very much necessary because, like you said, when you go into parent mode, your mind completely, you may not necessarily think about how it was when you were younger as much as, like you said, someone who doesn't have the parent mode that can just, I feel like understand the child better.
A little bit better, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still very much an adult. I was watching this video the other day on Instagram, and it was this kid singing these songs, and I was like, where is his mother? He is too young to be singing that song. So I'm definitely still an adult.
Yes,
But
yes,
it
for
does
sure.
help in those situations to be able to sort of tap into the mindset of the kids and have those conversations in a way that a child really just can't with an adult. They haven't
Yeah.
had the life experience yet, so they don't have the right words to phrase exactly how they're feeling. So I think it's important, the more people that can get involved in organizations like yours, where they're connecting with those kids and where they're having those conversations, and can help bridge the gap, whether it's like them helping to talk to their parents or just them giving them the words to talk to your parents and
Yeah.
why and how to have those conversations. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think when it's a little hard for children to talk to their parents about certain things because like you said, they don't really want to have them in their business, but then also they don't want a child knows if I tell my parent that I'm getting bullied at school, my parent's going to call the school and then they're going to talk to the other child and we're going to have to be in the same space together and then I'm going to be a tattletale. So like
Right.
I think they also don't want to go
Snitches
through
get
that.
stitches, so I'm
Exactly.
not
So
trying
then
to hear it.
like it's going to get worse. So it's like
Yeah.
yeah, I think having an outside person that isn't your parent to talk to is most definitely important because and then also I feel like they won't feel they may feel judged in a certain way from a parent perspective or they may your parents going to want to protect you.
Yeah.
So they're going to I know for me personally, like if girls are saying things about me in school, my mom's telling me like, "Yeah, I don't believe that. You're beautiful, all this." But I'm like, "Yeah, you're my mom. You have to say
Right.
these things."
That
Like
part. That part.
that's not the same as I still go to school and they still tell me all those things. So I think it just registers in their mind differently when it comes from a parent.
It absolutely does. And I mean, it does matter your parents' voice. Like, I
Right.
always grew up with my mom telling me, like, be confident. Um, what matters is the part inside, stand up for yourself, blah, 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 all those things. And when
Mhm.
I was younger, though, I literally would go, blah, blah, blah. Okay, mom. But now, as an adult, I
Yeah.
realize she instilled such a core sense of self-confidence within
Mhm.
me that it doesn't really get rocked by other people. Like once I got out of like the younger mindset of like caring what people think, and once I got past that, now it's like I'm the bomb and you can't tell me otherwise. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean I'm always the best. That doesn't mean I'm always perfect, the prettiest, any whatever. But individually, like my
Mhm.
sense of self-worth is not tied to anybody or anything around me. And I think that that is such like a core thing. And it's so important for
Absolutely.
parents to help instill that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, not all parents can help instill that, which is why it's also great to have programs where adults can connect with kids.
Mhm.
It's always been really big and important for me to get involved with kids as much as possible. Like, which
Mhm.
is funny because people think because you don't have kids, you don't like kids. I actually love kids. I love
Yeah.
kids so much that I don't want to have any. I love kids so much that I love spending time with them and giving them back. So, like, I
Yeah.
was like a guardian ad litem and I did Big Brother's Big Sister. Like, I love spending
Mhm.
time with them. I just also love giving them back to their parents.
Yeah, I
But I think that
understand.
that's important because I think that that role, that
Mhm.
non-parent role to a youth is super important. So thank
Yes.
you so much for starting your organization and helping make those bridges and make those gaps happen. I know you
Yeah.
just had your great Valentine's Day event. I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but
It's
can you tell us just
okay.
a little bit about how that went on Saturday?
Yeah, so the Valentine's event was the purpose was when you think about Valentine's Day, you think about all the love that you give to other people, but you don't really think about the love that you should give to yourself. So the point of the Valentine's event was to bring together girls and women to show them the importance of a sisterhood, self-love, self-confidence, and that Valentine's Day doesn't need to just be a romantic thing with another person, but it can be empowering to yourself. So we had different stations. We had a mirror station where you would decorate a mirror using charms and different things, kind of just to give you a reminder that when you look in the mirror, that you are unique and you are special, and it's just a little souvenir to take home to remind you that. We also did love letters to yourself, so we gave them the opportunity to write letters to themselves, and we had different like scents for them to spray the letter afterwards, just to get them thinking about like what do I actually love about myself and why, and if like a letter I would give to someone else, what would I say if I was writing the letter to me? And then we had group discussions about self-care, what self-care means to you and how you can show yourself more love, because I know that self-care is a big thing. It's a very huge subject, and not everyone knows like exactly how to show themselves care, because that can be hard. There's a lot of challenges that come with self-care, whether it's like not having enough time or like not feeling like it's more of like a reward rather than like something that's necessary. So
Mhm.
I feel like having that discussion was something to get them thinking about like how can I show myself the love that I deserve? So the event went very well. It was a nice mixture of adults and children, and that
Hmm.
made me happy because I'm like both sides need to hear this. So
Yeah.
it made me very happy to have that mixture. Yeah.
Someone's taking a page from my book, spraying a letter with the scent and cologne. Very, very nice. No, I love that. And I'm so glad the event went well. And I
Thank
can't
you.
thank you enough for joining me tonight to talk about TAG and to talk about First State Youth Move. I love all the things you do. I love following you on social media and seeing the great things that you're up to. Here to support you any way that I can. Can you tell people how to get connected with you if they need to?
Yes, I am on Instagram. My Instagram for tag is tag_Trulia_Gem_Inc. Also, I have an Instagram at Renata.lights. First Date Youth Moves Instagram is First Date Youth Move 302.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining. This has been a
Thank
great
you.
conversation. Thank you to everybody who's joining at home. Next week, I'm so excited. My baby brother is going to be my guest. Well, he's a grown man in his 30s getting married. He's not really a baby, but he's 7 years younger than me. So he's a baby to me. It's Black History Month. So we're going to talk a little bit about our evolution to finding Black identity in our own way, because as I've mentioned on here a few times, I grew up in white suburbia. So I literally had a journey myself to feeling Black after being grown up and being told that I wasn't Black enough. And he sort of had the same journey. And one day, a couple of years ago, we had a conversation. We're like, wait. So it was a great conversation. So we're going to bring that to you guys and talk a little bit about that. So please join us next week for our end of Black History Month conversation about finding your Black identity. And I hope to see you all next week at 7:30. Thank you again, Renata, and everyone who's joined us this evening.
Thank you.
Bye.